Alright, I thought I start the year off with one of my simple tech tutorials, explaining how my strategies work and how you can still save money in the coming year. Alright, so a couple of months ago, I found this gaming PC by Power, and they're calling this one the PC Gamer Extreme. I think this is one of their new product lines because according to the specifications, it's porting a Core i9 14900KF, an RTX 4080 16GB card, 64 gigs of DDR5 RAM, a 4TB PCI Express Gen 4 SSD, built-in Wi-Fi, and Windows 11 Home Edition. Right. So I, I had down here, wow, looks like a really good deal, doesn't it? We'll see about that on to the next slide. But what I mean by this is that yes, this is a very good system. For what it has, it's really good. It's just that when it comes to designs like this, I find that systems like this are just a headache waiting to happen because it has all of the thrills in it that would attract an average consumer, but all these RGB fans and stuff like that in here. I'm not saying that this setup is bad. It's just that I like to have builds that are more practical and straight to the point, where you don't have to deal with a lot of things to go wrong. You know what I mean? Like things like liquid coolers and all these fans and everything that people think they need to play games comfortably. It's just not necessary. Like I keep saying and demonstrating in my other videos I've made, there's no need for all of this. Not really. So I'm going to go through these specifications now one by one to show you what I mean. Right. First of all, the Core i9 14900KF. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so the Cyberpower PC is supporting 24 processing cores this time, right? It's got 8 performance cores and 16 efficiency cores, 32 threads, right? And then these are the clock speeds that it's working with. Thermal velocity boost frequency 6 gigahertz, turbo boost, max technology 5.8 gigahertz. You see all these different clock speeds in here. So as good as this CPU is, the reason why these clock speeds are so high is because this is more suited for somebody that is serious about their content creation. All right. And I'm not talking about just streamers going on Twitch and YouTube. I'm telling you right now, you can get by on a lot less than what this one is offering. This this computer right here is offering. All right. Next, the RTX 4080. Let's see. This GPU alone is really, really fast. I think it says it has 16 gigabytes of video memory. Yeah. So this would have DLSS version 3, a whole bunch of different features it will have, from NVIDIA. Yeah, this is the RTX 4080 Super, and then this is the regular RTX 4080. So I think the super version of the 4080 is much faster, but with the regular 4080, you're still getting 49 teraflops, and yeah, this is the GDDR6X version that there's advertising for the gaming PC. You see all these different features in here. I'm not gonna go through all of these. You can pause the video and check them out yourself one by one. Because I'm just always trying to go for the highest value for money, and I'm telling you right now, machines like this isn't it. This is not where it is, not really. 64 gigs of DDR5 RAM, so it is sporting the latest generation for memory right now, and DDR5 prices are still higher than DDR4 right now, as far as I'm aware. And they didn't tell you what version of Wi-Fi they have, but it's still there. And 4 terabytes of storage. I'm assuming that this is going to be on a single SSD, because they hardly ever would split up the data between the two drives like I would prefer. But even if the drive is still a single SSD, for sure it will still be fast because it still is generation 4 SSD. So there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that this is how I would prefer a build like this. With the budget this high, this is how I would do it. Okay, so this is my alternative gaming solution for $1,565.10. All right, so starting with the CPU, I chose the Ryzen 7 7700X. Okay, so this is what I went with. General specifications. Okay, so this one is on the new AM5 platform from AMD, and it's got 8 cores and 16 threads. All right, it's clocked to 5.4 gigahertz for the maximum boost clock, and then the base clock is 4.5. And you may be saying that well, the i9 is way faster than this chip. Like, why would I want something like this, right? Well, the games, when it comes to gaming and streaming, the games don't really tend to use as many cores as people tend to think that they do. That's the point of it, you see. The point is to be able to save money in areas that actually make sense for money, so that you can still get some security with your build as well. Because even though this build is advertising one solid state drive, I have 2 solid state drives on mine, and the reason why I do that is so that you could put the operating system on one solid state drive along with a few games and applications, and then the rest of the data on the other drive. The idea is so that, again, you still have security with your build in case something goes wrong with Windows. Because Windows, let's be honest, it tends to be very unpredictable at times, and there's only so much you can do when you got a blue screen of death or something like that coming up out of nowhere. It can get really annoying, and it can become very inconvenient. So that's the reason why I do things this way. I have 32 gigabytes of DDR5 memory, and the reason why I do that is so that you still get enough memory for your needs. Yes, I could have gone with 64 gigs of RAM the same way how they did here, but for sure the budget would then have to be increased. For what? It's not like most people is going to need all that memory anyway. I'm more sure people would rather have more storage space than RAM, because RAM is temporary memory. It's not the kind of memory that you use up all the time. You only use the amount of RAM you're going to need when you actually need it. So when you start closing out programs and stuff like that, it's gonna lessen the amount of RAM that you're using on the system. One time it may be 8 gigs of RAM, another time it may be 10, and then when you check back again, you may be using only 6 to 10 gigs of RAM or so, right? That's how it is. For the motherboard, I went with the B650 Eagle AX. So let's check this out. Okay. Yeah, so this is the motherboard. You see? And this is a really good looking model in my opinion. It's got a multiple PCI Express slots on the motherboard itself, and it supports the latest generation of CPUs right now from AMD, and I'm pretty sure with a series of BIOS updates you can also move up to the 9000 series if you wish to do that. No problem. It's got a DisplayPort, HDMI, USB 10 gigabit per second ports, smart fan, version 6 technology. All this is built into the motherboard itself. So yeah, I think I picked a really nice one this time. Yeah, these are the antennas right here for the Wi-Fi itself, and I'm pretty sure it's also gonna come with the adapter to plug this in. You know, so you could just load your drivers for the motherboard, the chipset, and everything that it needs to be functional with Windows 11. And then you have yeah, this is Wi-Fi version 6E. Yeah, this is really good. This is the latest generation as far as I know right now. You know, so you'll get really good connectivity, you know, if you couldn't run a cable to your motherboard. And I see that it's still supporting the old style legacy PS2 keyboards and mice. You know, purple is for the keyboard and the green one is for the mouse. USB-C, you know, a lot of people are still using USB-C right now for their phones and tablets and headphones and stuff like that. A whole bunch of different devices you can use with this port. So you could potentially plug your devices into your computer here and use and charge it. That'll be very convenient for you. No problem. All right. So this is the reason why I pick these kind of motherboards, because you know, for the price they tend to be really, really good. For the power supply, I went with the RM850 gold rated power supply from Corsair. And the reason why I went for this power supply is because I have the RTX 3080. So you see, what I did was I went one generation backwards on the graphics card, and then went forward on the CPU, because I know the RTX 3080 can still support a lot of people's needs when it comes to gaming and streaming. It's not like it's an obsolete model, you know. And even though yes, it's only supporting 10 gigabytes of video memory right now, it's not as bad as people think it is. It's still relevant today, and that's why I chose this video card. All right. But then let me just go back here. Yeah. Okay. So, in terms of the case, I went with the Lancool 216 RGB, and let me explain why I went with this case. Let me see that Lancool 216. Yeah, so this is the case that I went with. Okay, so first of all, the reason why I chose this case is because, first of all, instead of relying on multiple amounts of fans for your gaming needs, it's actually better to go with bigger fans, because what happens is, with bigger fans, you get more airflow with less noise, because the RPM on these fans are going to be much lower than say a 120 millimeter fan. Now typically that's what people tend to target most of the time when it comes to fans, because that's the normal standard for fans, 120 millimeters, right? But when you go with 140 millimeters, like I think these ones are, in terms of size, let me just check in with that and see. Actually no, it's big. Yeah, it's 160 millimeters. Yeah, so these are even bigger than I thought they are, which is really good, because you see, unlike unlike a setup like this, where you got all these fans to worry about when they start to fail, with this setup instead, you actually get more longevity here, where the fans can still move more air through the mesh and cool your system on the inside without compromising the quality of the case, because Lian Li makes really good cases. They make really good chassis, you know, for the price, and it will still be able to support your motherboard and your graphics card and everything. This is not a small case by any means. It's actually got some really decent size on it, you know. But unfortunately, you know, these pictures aren't doing this case much justice, because I don't know, they have to, you know, scale down to fit the website, so there isn't much I can show here with where this case is concerned. But you could pull it up yourself if you're interested and check it out, you know. And then in terms of the solid state drives, I have the P3 Plus 2TB and then the SN770 2TB. So I believe this SN770 is the faster drive out of the two. I can't remember when I chose these parts, so let me check in with this and see. Or they might be Gen 4 SSDs for both of them, but I don't remember. So the SN770. What generation is this? Oh yeah, it's Gen 4. It's Gen 4. So yeah, and you get a 5-year limited warranty on this. Not bad at all. I don't have any complaints at all about this drive. 5,150 megabytes per second transfer rate. Wow. You can get by really easily on a drive like this. Okay, not bad. All right, on what was the other one? P3 Plus 2TB. Okay. P3 Plus 2TB. Okay, let me try this out. Okay, so this one is generation 4 as well. But the sequential read speed are not as fast as the other one. So I think the reason why I picked this drive is so that you could put Windows on the SN770 for Windows, you know, itself, and then use the P3 Plus for mass storage. Yeah, that's what I did. So you know, that's the reason why I picked these parts. You see, this is the reason why it makes sense. The only other thing I forgot to mention was the cooler, but I already reviewed this cooler on my other videos. So it's the same Phantom Spirit 120 SE ARGB from Thermalright. And you see, the reason how this all makes sense is because you see, you got RGB on the RAM, you still get RGB on the case fans, and you also get RGB on the cooler. All right. You could also replace the rear fan with another RGB fan if you wish to do that. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people will be satisfied with this as it is. And then the last thing to discuss on this build would be the benchmarks. These are the average benchmarks I found on Passmark Score website. For the Ryzen 7, the average benchmark score was 35,996. This is the multi-thread rating, and then the single thread rating is 4,199. Now, the 14900KF is a massive improvement for sure. You know, 59,438. Of course, it's going to be faster because, you know, it's got more cores to work with. But like I said before, though, you gotta understand that a CPU like this is really suited for serious content creators. All right, that's the reason why I went with the 7700X, because it's more practical. All right, that's the main reason why. Okay, for this next slide, what I have here is RTS 4080 retails for $1,149.97 US, and it comes with 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 memory. Great for gaming, streaming, video editing. It's one of the best. What else could we buy with a budget like this? So what I mean by this is, just like what I was talking about with where the CyberPower gaming PC was, products like these are good, but they're only suited for people that need products with the features that an RTS 4080 would offer. All right. Not to mention, this is only one part of a gaming PC that will have to be invested for you to be able to game and do whatever else you want to do, right? So this is what I did. I took this budget right here, $1,149, and this is what I got. Next slide. Okay, so first of all, I have here the B-Link SER5 Pro Mini PC for $359 US. And these are the specs, right? So it has the Ryzen 7 5800H, 8 cores and 16 threads, 32 gigs of RAM, and a 500 gigabyte NVMe SSD. Down here, it also advertises support for triple display. All right, so that means is that you can plug 3 different displays into this small machine. And the idea of a mini PC is that you could set it up in an office or even at home and use it just like a laptop computer, because these specs down here, especially where the CPU is concerned, is actually a mobile version processor. So this is actually the mobile version of the 5800X that you would normally buy on a desktop computer. That's exactly what this is. So even though it has the same amount of cores and threads, do not mistake this CPU to be as fast as a desktop, because honestly that's impossible. All right, it's fast, but just not as fast. All right, and then with 32 gigs of RAM, again, you can still do multitasking very comfortably without compromising your setup. And even though, yes, it comes with 500 gigs of NVMe storage, you can still expand your storage later. Also, you will also find it has built-in Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, because it's pretty much like a laptop replacement computer. So this is the first thing. Second thing, I also found a Samsung tablet. This is the Galaxy Tab A9 Plus, and it's 11 inches in size. I mean the screen, for $170 US. So it comes with 64 gigs of internal storage, a big screen, quad speakers, and multi-window display. Now, 11 inches is pretty big for a tablet, and that's why they're advertising as having a big screen. But the two main features I find interesting with this model is that it comes with quad speakers, which means it actually has a speaker in each corner on the back of this tablet to allow you to use the computer, use this tablet, with surround sound capabilities. Because normally, how on a phone or a regular tablet, you probably only get one speaker, right? So with the quad speakers setup, you can watch YouTube videos, watch movies, listen to music, that kind of thing, with 4 speakers instead of just one. All right, and then the multi-window display, this is actually a way for you to use the tablet like you would a laptop computer, where you can open up more than one application in window mode. All right, so rather than being, even though this is running Android operating system, I'm not entirely sure what version of Android this is running, but you can pull it up yourself and check it out. I'm just trying to get through the review as quickly as possible. So but you can pull up, you can use the tablet on with multiple applications open at a time. Also, what I have here is a micro NZXT memory card, and this one has a capacity of 1 terabyte of storage already for just $80 US. And the idea here is that you can expand the storage a lot easier for just $80. You can put that way. You can put your a lot more apps on this, photos, videos, that kind of thing, because storage tends to be a main concern when it comes to consumers, right? It's really annoying when you are tethered to like a 256 gig memory bank, and you have to rely on that pretty much forever. But there's only so much you can do with that, and that's why this comes in very handy. All right, and that's why I have it here as part of the list. Okay, the next thing, I also have a desktop configuration here. So this is a fully operational desktop computer sporting a Core i5-12400. This CPU has 6 cores and 12 threads. It has the Ripjaws V series, 32 gigs of RAM capacity, P3 plus 1 terabyte solid state drive, BM3 650 watt bronze rated power supply from Thermalright, the B760M DS3H from Gigabyte, and an NZXT H5 Flow case. So the idea here is that you would be able to set up this whole machine and use it on the integrated graphics from Intel. And then when you're ready, you can always plug in a graphics card and turn this into a nice entry-level gaming PC. Alright, so the kind of graphics cards I would recommend with something like this would be something like an RX 7600, or something like what I have, an RX 5500, RTS 3060 from NVIDIA, or maybe something like an RTS 2060 if you can still find one, or if you have one spare. Other graphics cards from NVIDIA like something like a GTX 1660 would be good, GTX 1650, RTS 4060. I would not recommend a high-end graphics card with a 12400 though, because even though it may work with it, it's going to be a bottleneck for sure. Because as good as this CPU is only a mid-range CPU, is because it's only got 6 cores, right? So the idea is to get something that won't overpower something like this power supply here. Or if this power supply is not good enough for you, you can always swap it out for a 750 gold rated power supply. And Corsair is what I would recommend as an alternative solution to this. All right, and that's about it for this this slide. Okay, so for this next slide, I find this one was very interesting this time, because what I found here around the time when I was looking, the PlayStation 5 Pro was retailing for around $700 US. As far as I know, this was the original price. And what I have down here is nice. Now watch this next slide. So this is just my way of capturing people's attention, Whether or not this actually works, I have no idea. But anyway, next slide. All right, so what this is an AMD gaming build for $685.46 US. All right, and these are the specs. I have a Ryzen 5 5600X, a B550 Aorus Elite AX, 16 gigabytes of RAM, an SN770 1 terabyte drive, a 650 bronze rated power supply from Thermalright again, RX 650 XT, and a Montec Air 100 ARGB case. All right, so the idea here again is to take the same $700 for the PlayStation 5 and get a nice entry-level gaming PC out of it, right? So since I've already reviewed the SN770 from Western Digital, I decided to what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to look up this motherboard here and show you what I'm working with. So this is the B550 Aorus Elite AX. Okay, one thing I forgot to mention about the motherboard model is that I forgot to put the M as part of the specs over here, because it's supposed to be a micro ATX standard motherboard, not ATX. So if you were to search for the B550 Aorus Elite AX, you will probably get the ATX version of this motherboard, but that's not the one that I chose, because you know, I'm always trying to look for the most inexpensive products, not necessarily cheap, but you know, inexpensive that you could still use it, right? So this is still supporting this is still supporting the AM4 platform, and that's fine because it's not obsolete by any means. It's just that, you know, certain expectations have to be set, and it's still good though, because you see it still has DVI port, HDMI, PS2, USB 2.0, USB 3, Wi-Fi version 6E, gigabit Ethernet port. It still has regular USB-A port down here and regular audio, and then it also has 2 M.2 slots for SSDs, so you can have one master SSD for the operating system and another one for the mass storage, I mean. And then in the middle here it has a ultra durable PCI Express slot. So the reason why they call it ultra durable is because it's actually made of metal to help with added weight when it comes to heavier graphics cards. But I didn't pick a heavy graphics card. I only picked the RX 6650 XT, and I know that this is only 8 gigabytes of video memory, so a card like this is not going to be very heavy, which is really good. And then the other thing I would take a look at is this case, the Montec Air 100 ARGB. All right, so let's take a look at the case. Okay, so this is the case I chose. Let's say it's not found. Oh, okay, so it comes with 3 ARGB fans on this case. So 3 to the front, 1 to the back, and has a mesh glass window. A mesh front panel on it, and it's black. But you know, the one thing about black, you can never really go around this color because it pretty much goes with anything. And then this is the backside view of the case. So it's got plenty of room for your power supply mounting. You can still mount 3.5-inch drives into this case if you wanted to do that. Plenty of room for cable management and everything to the back here. And then this is the front side view. You got grommets for your cables to come through on this side here, so plug them in. So you could plug your 24-pin cable for your motherboard, and then the 8-pin power connector will go up here. Yeah. And you have, again, a nice side panel window to see all your nice parts on the inside, that kind of thing. Yeah, I don't see any major issues with this case at all, and that's why I picked it. All right, a case like this would be really, really good for airflow, and that way your parts on the inside will not overheat on themselves. Even if you are using an air cooler for your CPU, that's not a problem here at all, because you know it's got fans to assist with airflow. Okay, and then the other slide, you see, like I said down here, I'm not done yet. Next slide. Okay, so what I have here is a Mughal wireless controller, and it retails around the time that I found it. It retailed for $19.98 US. So the idea here is that you could plug in a nice gamepad, just like you would the PlayStation 5 here. All right, so I figured, you know, instead of doing things the same way all the time, why not have some versatility where, you know, you can still have some fun on your gaming PC, even if it is entry level, you know? It comes with the cable and everything to charge it, and that way you can plug it in, and I'm pretty sure it also comes with the dongle you can plug in and use it wireless. And I like these colors. It's got this army like theme. You got green, red, yellow, all these different accents on here, and that's why I picked this to go along with the PC. You know, so yeah, even though the budget here is small, you see, this is how it makes sense. Where you still get a nice setup with this. I like that. Uh, it makes it setup unique, in my opinion, and that's why I like this setup. All right, so one final conclusion about this slide, though, where this post is concerned, right, is the fact that some people will still prefer the PlayStation 5 Pro over the PC simply because of the convenience, where they know that all of their games will be compatible with this system. All right, and not to mention, not only that, but it's dumbed down to their level where they can actually just take it home, plug it in, and there's nothing to configure or set up. It'll just work. All right. So I understand that fact that the computer is a lot more technical, even though it does offer more. I understand that when it comes to being able to just play games, you can set it up and not have any major issues with it. But with this, you have to, not only would you have to install all the hardware inside the case, but then you have to install your Windows, your drivers, your Steam, Discord, OBS software, Chrome, all of that will have to be set up. And it can be a hassle. So for that reason, yes, I understand that this, for some people, will still make more sense. What I have here is up top. Newer isn't always better. So this PC is from a company called Skytech Gaming, and they calling this one the Shadow 4. I don't know, I'm not entirely sure what they mean by that, but it was retailing around $800 US, and these are the specifications down here. So it has a Ryzen 5 7600, 16 gigabytes of RAM, a 500 gigabyte NVMe SSD, and an RTX 4060. Now, the one thing I find very inconvenient when it comes to these pre-built computers is that they always tend to bundle a gaming PC with only 500 gigs of storage, right? And even though it's not a bad start, games tend to consume a lot of drive space. So eventually you will have to upgrade the storage very early, and the thing is, even though yes, the CPU is good and the graphics card is also good, this is the one part that's going to be a limiting factor when it comes to being able to play games like Fortnite, GTA 5 and stuff like that. The setup looks very typical to what I'm custom seeing all the time. RGB fans, air cooler back here. It's got, and I believe it also has built-in Wi-Fi. For the convenience for people that either can't run an Ethernet cable, or if they would prefer the convenience of just not having cables at all, right? So what I have down here is check description for details, and this is my description over here, right? So what I have over here is newer isn't always better, and what I mean by that is the new AM5 platform is very decent. It supports the newer 7000 series CPUs and DDR5 RAM. However, Intel's 12th generation is not obsolete yet. One of my favorite CPUs is the 12600K. Even though it's not the fastest on the market, it still offers an incredible value. 10 processing cores, and the temperatures can be controlled with an air cooler just fine. And I've actually seen it firsthand. That's true. because I've actually assisted a streamer with a 12600K gaming slash streaming build, and even though we used a Thermalright cooler, it was okay, it was fine. You see, because streaming doesn't tax a system as hard as people think it does. You see, as long as you have enough processing cores, at least 4 to 6 of them, you can get by very easily on an air cooler. All right, because the other 4 cores that are just sitting there on the CPU aren't exactly being used. It may look that way, but that's not how it works. So this is my alternative solution to this budget up here. So what I have here again, the Core i5 12600K 10 core CPU. I have an RX 600 8GB card. I believe this card is from Power Color. Yeah. A B760M Gaming Plus Wi-Fi motherboard from MSI. Ripjaw series 32 gigs of RAM. The NZXT H5 Flow case. P3 plus 1TB SSD. I have a 750 gold rated power supply from Thermaltake again. And then for some extra cooling, I have the TL C12C SX3 ARGB fans from Thermalright. Alright, so the idea is that because both the CPU cooler and the case fans will be from the same company, it will ensure compatibility with the system itself. Right, so the idea is that you could put 2 fans to the front and then 1 fan to the back, or you could mount all 3 fans to the front here and keep the one in the back, because I do believe the NZXT H5 Flow comes with a rear case fan already. All right, and as you can see, my solution came out to just $792.40, so it's just shy of $800 the same way. You see, because you see, the idea here is to be able to take the same budget and do multiple things on the system at the same time. It's okay to say that this is already supporting the latest generation from AMD, but like I said before, they're still limiting you with storage space. But with this solution here, you get some of everything without compromising the build for the same budget. That's the idea of it. Because you see, the power supply is 750 watts. So even if you didn't want to go with an RX 600 graphics card, and you want to get something more powerful than this, that's okay, because you won't have to exchange the power supply or the case storage or even the CPU. And the RAM is already 32 gigs of RAM, so you don't necessarily have to change this either. The motherboard also supports 12th, 13th, and 14th generation at the same time. So the only thing you may have to do is apply a BIOS update to allow the latest generation to be compatible with this board. So the idea is that you could start off with a 12th generation i5 and then still move up later down the line. You won't necessarily have to change the CPU cooler or the fans or anything. That's the whole point of this whole build. You see? And that's my tutorial. You see, everything on here that I've talked about, you see, this is how it all makes sense. One time somebody had written a comment on this post stating that this one is still better. Well, it's true for some people, but not for everybody. And that's the reason why I do stuff like this. I create parts lists like this that you can expand your budget's potential and get more out of it. Right? It does not have to be the best. It does not have to be the latest all the time. And that's why I label this newer isn't always better. Okay? So this is Zulu 67 signing off.